My ex called me a hypocrite at my wedding for being a stepmother to my husband's children, but not to the child from his own affair. But when everyone started laughing at him, I thanked him for gifting me a clown. Since this thread is for sharing weird wedding stories, I think mine definitely qualifies, because my ex-husband showed up and tried to make a scene. I think it even competes with that story about the bride who hired clowns, except mine came for free. It was a small wedding, so I honestly didn't think we needed security. You just never imagine someone showing up and doing something that stupid. I still can't believe he's bitter about our divorce, even though he gave me every reason to leave. Clearly, he's never been able to accept that I was the one who ended it, and that brings us here. But I'm rambling, so let me get to the point. Hi, sorry for the tangent, here's the context. I met my ex at a party when I was 23. We started dating after he asked me out, and I married him when I was 25. We were together for 5 years, until I turned 30. We both wanted kids, so we tried for almost 3 years with no luck. It became frustrating, and we started arguing a lot. There was already tension between us, and then I discovered his affair. Not just the affair, I also found out he had a child with the other woman. That's the simple reason I filed for divorce. I wasn't going to stay with a man like that. I discovered everything while reviewing our finances. I had a gut feeling something was off, and I noticed discrepancies. He had no choice but to admit the truth. I think by that point he was tired of hiding things from me, and honestly, tired of being with me. He decided to confess everything, which, in a way, I appreciated because it saved us a lot of wasted time. Apparently, during the 2nd year of our marriage, he had an affair with a coworker that lasted a few months. Then she found out she was pregnant. He begged her to end the pregnancy, but she decided to have the baby and threatened to tell me if he didn't support her financially. So, he'd been doing that ever since. He tried to justify everything, saying it meant nothing, and that the only reason he stayed in touch with her was for money matters, that he never slept with her again, and only spoke to her so he could see his son. Apparently, he'd been living an entire secret life the whole time we were married. I guess at least he didn't abandon his child, but it wasn't okay for me, because he'd betrayed me. But here's where it got worse. After I found out, he tried to spin it as something positive, as if it could somehow fix our marriage. He told me that we'd been together so long, that he truly loved me, thank God for that, because otherwise he'd have a whole army of love children by now, and that the affair had been just a one-time mistake. He wanted me to know he was committed to making things work, that the other woman meant nothing, and that now that I knew everything, we could move forward. He said that me finding out about his son was a blessing in disguise, since I'd been struggling to get pregnant, that it was somehow convenient I knew about his child, because we could raise him together, as mother and father, and everyone would win. That was a serious proposal he made to me, and of course I lost it. I don't know what kind of woman would ever agree to that, but I wasn't going to become the stepmother of the child my husband had with his mistress. I wasn't about to play loving mom on the weekends when it was his turn for custody. It was insane. That's why my divorce wasn't just because of his infidelity, it was because I honestly thought he was out of his mind. Even after that, he kept pestering me, begging me to come back, saying we could still fix things. But that was never going to happen. I filed for divorce, and since his career was going well, he had to pay me alimony. I guess that's what he's still really bitter about, that I chose to leave him instead of pretending he was some divine blessing I should have been grateful for. After the divorce, I never spoke to him again, but he kept trying to contact me, sending messages every few months, saying things like, "We could have made it work," or "I hate you." I'd block him, and he'd just find another way to reach me. No one would grant me a restraining order because, according to the police, they were just harmless messages. Over time, I'd read them and just feel pity. He was truly pathetic. Like, move on already. I wasn't going back to him. It's been 4 years since the divorce, and I've moved on. I think he should have done the same, but as you'll soon see, he hasn't. 2 years ago, I started dating my now husband, and a couple of months ago, he proposed. The engagement was short, and a few weeks later he posted it on social media, which, I assume, is how my ex found out. But I still don't understand how he even found out where the wedding was. I'll figure that out later, because I'm sure whoever told him, I'll find out and cut them out of my life. The point is, somehow he managed to learn where I was getting married and decided to show up at my wedding. During the reception, he decided to interrupt with his own little speech. When he walked in, we were already pretty shocked, and my husband was on his way to drag him out, but my ex was faster. He started talking right there in front of everyone, apparently thinking people would sympathize with him or something. I already knew that whatever he was going to say would be ridiculously stupid, and of course, I was right. He went ahead and said the dumbest thing imaginable. He called me a hypocrite. He said I was a horrible person for leaving him even though he'd never left me, and because I couldn't give him a child. He called me selfish and egocentric, and the reason he said all of this will blow your mind. Ready? He said all that because I was willing to be a stepmother to my husband's children but not willing to raise his loved child from the affair. That's right, he brought that up in his little speech, ranting about it in front of everyone. He basically kept going, claiming that it was the same thing, that I was being hypocritical because I just didn't want to spend my life with him, and that now here I was, doing everything I refused to do for him, only with another man. Which, first of all, is an insane way to look at the situation, and second, it's not even remotely the same. For one, I knew about my husband's kids from the very beginning, and I get along great with them. My current husband wasn't unfaithful to have them. I also don't have to act as their mother, he has them half the week, since he's still on good terms with his ex-wife, and that arrangement works perfectly for me. None of this has anything to do with what my ex wanted. He wanted me to be submissive, to accept his cheating, probably so he could do it again, and then take care of his child when it was his turn to have him. After that divorce, I'd kind of given up on the idea of having kids of my own. It just didn't seem appealing anymore, and I closed that chapter of my life. Maybe that's trauma talking, but I'm genuinely fine with the life I have now, with my husband and my stepkids. My husband doesn't plan to have more children either. So, to sum it up, that was the ridiculous reason my ex decided to show up at my wedding and attack me. What a weirdo. My husband had been halfway across the room, ready to throw him out himself, but not because he thought my ex had a point, he just thought the whole thing was absurd. When my ex finally finished his little speech, he probably expected people to take his side or feel sorry for him. Instead, everyone burst out laughing, literally. People were spitting out their drinks. My uncle, who everyone knows wears a toupee but never admits it, nearly lost it right then and there. It was chaos, and hilarious. Some of my relatives were laughing so hard I thought they might need medical attention. My ex looked stunned, completely thrown off. So, to twist the knife a little, I walked up to him and thanked him for providing free clown entertainment at my wedding, because I hadn't realized that was exactly what the event was missing. Then I told him to pack up his circus and leave before I called the police. He stormed off, hurling insults the whole way, but I didn't care. Honestly, I felt like it made the whole day even better. He'd humiliated himself completely, and there was very little chance he'd ever try to contact me again. Besides, he was the one who started all of this, so I don't see why I should feel guilty. But last night, I got a message from my former in-laws, and that made me rethink a few things. For context, my ex's parents have always been kind to me. During the divorce, they told me I was doing the right thing. They're not the kind of people who blindly defend their son when he's in the wrong. The last time I spoke to them was a couple of days after I filed for divorce. They wished me the best for the future and said they were sorry things hadn't worked out. They seemed genuinely upset about his affair, and I've always had a good impression of them. Even during our marriage, they were wonderful people. So when they reached out to me now, saying they understood it was my wedding but thought humiliating him even more than he'd already humiliated himself was a bit extreme, I was conflicted. They said they understood that my ex provoked me, but instead of letting him keep talking and embarrass himself completely, they thought I should have called the police and had him escorted out. From their message, I gathered that they found the whole thing a little unsettling. They also said my ex was in a miserable state. Apparently, he hasn't been eating well, hasn't been sleeping, and has been working from home for a while now. They believe he's in the middle of a terrible depression, though he refuses to seek treatment for it. So, he's also stopped taking care of himself, and everything about him right now just screams misery, which explains why he looked a bit disheveled at my wedding. My former in-laws also told me that he still truly loves me, that he's never been able to get over me, but they understand that I made the right decision for myself, so they're not judging me for it. However, they do think I could have handled the situation better, because clearly my ex-husband isn't doing well. They said happy, healthy people don't act this way, and that I should have been a little more sensitive, that I should have had him thrown out instead of humiliating and insulting him, because it's apparently affected his already fragile mental health, which has been bad ever since he found out I was engaged, especially to a man who already had children. They told me he's been miserable since the divorce, that he really wants me back, and that he'd been in therapy and on medication but has since stopped. Obviously, I didn't know any of this, and I felt a bit weird about how I'd treated him, though honestly, there wasn't much else I could have done, except maybe not make the circus and clown comment. But he was the one who started it. He was the one who went to the trouble of finding out where I was getting married, showing up, and trying to create some dramatic scene or whatever that was supposed to be. He was the one who tried to insult me first. If his parents are genuinely so worried about his mental state, maybe they shouldn't have let him leave the house on the day of my wedding in the first place. I don't know, I just feel like I'm not responsible for this, and I hate feeling like I'm being blamed for something I didn't do. I can feel sorry for him because he's struggling mentally, but it's still entirely his own doing. He wasn't mentally unstable when he slept with another woman and got her pregnant. And to be completely honest, since we're among friends here, even if you're strangers, you basically know my whole life by now, I don't even think what I did was that bad. Mike's circus and clown joke was just the cherry on top. The most humiliating part was what he said. So yeah, that's basically the drama from my wedding. Edit, it's funny that people are asking for more details about my uncle's toupee. We don't have enough evidence to take that hairpiece to court, but if you saw it, you'd think someone killed a neighborhood cat and glued it to his head. The family's running joke is that one strong sneeze could send it flying onto someone else's face like a spider. Update 1. I only planned to make one post about my wedding, but people asked for an update, so here I am, though I had to switch subs since this no longer has anything to do with weddings. I told my husband about the message I got from my former in-laws. I hadn't told him before because, honestly, I didn't want to keep talking about the whole thing. But he's my husband, of course he deserves to know. He tells me about his problems, I tell him about mine, and we both laugh about my uncle. Some people have called me mean for teasing my uncle, but it's actually the opposite, we love him, he's awesome. It's just time for him to embrace his baldness and stop wearing that thing on his head. Back to my husband, the only reason I didn't tell him earlier was because I didn't want it to seem like I was obsessed with my ex or still hung up on the situation. But then I realized I didn't need to act like that. My husband is secure, and as soon as I told him, the first thing he did was make sure I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. When I explained that I didn't tell him right away because I didn't want to seem like I was dwelling on it, he said it didn't matter, because at the end of the day, if it's bothering me, it's valid. My feelings are valid. So yes, we talked, and that just confirmed that I was completely right in thinking none of this is my fault. It isn't. My husband feels the same, and so do my parents, my friends, and even my uncle, though we don't know what his toupee thinks because he won't let us interview it. Sorry, last joke about that. I've talked it through with everyone, and even in the comments people keep saying I'm just overthinking this because my ex's parents were kind to me. But that doesn't mean anything. They're good people, and of course they care about their son and his mental health, that's why they think I did something wrong. But at the end of the day, they have to understand their son needs to take responsibility for his own actions. If you mess up, you face the consequences, that's how life works. I'm not going to let anyone make me feel responsible for someone facing the consequences of what they did. He's not the victim here. I never was the victim either, not even during our marriage. They should spend their time getting him the therapy and medication he clearly needs. That's what he really needs right now. He had the chance to have a good life with me, but he threw it away, and that's no longer my problem. I need to move on, live my life, be with other people. If my wedding hurt him that much, there's not much I can do about it. Bad luck for him. I've moved on. I'm done with him. I'm happy with my life now, and if he isn't, that's his problem, not mine. Update 2. We're now on our honeymoon, enjoying the warmth and the lazy days of doing nothing but relaxing and getting a little sun. Honestly, how do people ever go back to normal life after this? I've mostly been staying off my phone because right now I just want to focus on having a good time. But my ex and his family are being incredibly annoying. A couple of hours ago, my ex-mother-in-law tagged me in a post claiming that I mentally broke her son. There was even a picture of him crying on the couch. She literally photographed him at his lowest point and used it to attack me. Naturally, my phone started blowing up with notifications. And I guess it's working, because everyone in the comments seems to hate me now. Most of them are his family's friends, relatives, co-workers, people on his side, but it's still infuriating. They think I'm some kind of gold digger who took his money and happiness. In her post, she claimed I took alimony even though I didn't need it, which simply isn't true. The only reason my career wasn't as successful as his was because I was doing everything around the house. I knew he was doing well financially, so I chose to take a step back, and at the time, I didn't regret it. But when I found out he cheated on me, that's when I decided to take the alimony. It was a significant amount, and I'm proud of it. I had to fight for it, and I got what I deserved. I won't feel guilty for that. He should feel guilty for cheating, but of course, that's the part they conveniently leave out. People in the comments seem to have forgotten that detail, they just want to paint me as the villain. And I guess I was right not to feel too sorry for my ex-in-laws, because clearly they don't respect me as much as I thought. If they did, they wouldn't be pulling stunts like this. Anyway, I blocked them. I don't want anything to do with them anymore. I just hope they finally leave me alone. Because if they think I'm going to apologize to their son for what happened at the wedding, they're very mistaken. No, I don't have anything to apologize for, I know that, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Right now, I'm just here to enjoy myself with my husband. And yes, of course I told him what happened, he said we'll deal with it once we're home. Until then, I'm just keeping them blocked and waiting for this to blow over. That's exactly what I'm doing. I just hope there's nothing left to deal with when we get back. I really hope this is the end of it, because it's getting exhausting. Edit, making my own public post about it doesn't make sense, most people already know what my ex did. It's no secret. If they're doing this, it's because they think his mental health matters more than his actions, as if his affair was just a mistake. So posting about it again would just be a waste of time. Update 3. We came back home a few days ago, and today I finally found out who leaked the date and location of my wedding. And, just as I suspected, it was exactly who I thought it would be, the only mutual friend my ex and I still had. To be honest, I didn't want to believe it, but deep down I always knew it had to be her. She's the only connection between us. I met my ex at one of her parties, she knew him from college and me from high school. That's how we met, and she's been friends with both of us all this time. But I thought she'd chosen my side after the divorce, because it sure seemed that way. She acted like she despised him, actually. But, just like with my ex-in-laws, I guess I was wrong. She used to talk so much trash about him to me after the divorce. The way she talked made it clear she didn't think he'd done the right thing. But apparently, I was mistaken. Over the past few weeks, I'd been trying to figure out who could have told him about my wedding details, how he even found out. The guest list was small, so there weren't many possible suspects. My friends and family obviously wouldn't do it. And she was one of my closest friends, or so I thought. I really didn't want to believe she'd do something like that. But a couple of days ago, I finally asked her directly if it had been her, because I couldn't think of anyone else who'd still be in contact with him or have any reason to tell him. She didn't respond for a few days, and today she finally replied, saying she was very sorry, but yes, it had been her. She claimed she didn't mean to tell him, that it just happened. Apparently, he somehow found out about my engagement and started bothering her constantly, asking when and where I was getting married. He told her it wasn't because he planned to show up, he just wanted to know. Then he went to see her in person and basically begged her on his knees until she told him. So, she said she couldn't say no because she felt sorry for him. That seems to be a recurring theme, everyone always feels sorry for him, and I don't think I'll ever understand why. It's not like his actions ever deserved pity. And that's how she ended up telling him. She said she wanted me to know she was really sorry for everything she'd done, especially for pretending she had no contact with him, when in reality they still talked occasionally, sending each other birthday wishes or chatting now and then. Sure, it wasn't much, but still, they kept in touch and were cordial. I felt so betrayed. I didn't even respond to any of her long apologetic messages, I just decided to block her, because I'm done with all of this. I don't have time for this nonsense. And I won't lie, I did feel bad about it, but I'm not going to hold a grudge, because that's pointless. She did what she did, she betrayed my trust, and that's it. I mean, I didn't even give a second chance to the man I once loved after he betrayed me, so why would she think she could do something like this and I'd just be okay with it? That's not how things work with me. So yeah, it hurts to cut off a friend, especially one I was so close to, but it is what it is. Update 4. After what my ex-mother-in-law did, I completely blocked her from all social media, so she finally left me alone. And until recently, I hadn't had any contact with my ex or his family. I was living peacefully, at peace with myself and everything else. I was busy with work, having fun with my husband, his kids, my family, and my friends. These last 2 weeks had been great. But of course, they had to ruin that too. This morning, my ex and my former in-laws showed up at our house demanding an explanation. They said they wanted to talk about my behavior at the wedding, claiming I had deliberately allowed a depressed man to humiliate himself in front of everyone just to get revenge. I'm not joking, that's literally what they said when I opened the door. My ex was standing behind them in silence, refusing to even look me in the eyes, just staring at the ground, shifting awkwardly from one foot to the other. It was clear this wasn't his idea, and if it were up to him, he wouldn't have been there at all. Which honestly was fine by me, it showed he was at least trying to stay away, and I liked that. That's the best thing for both of us. But his parents disagreed, and I wasn't about to tolerate their nonsense. When they said why they were there, I told them they weren't welcome. This is my new home with my new family, and I don't want anything to do with my past life. They weren't there to apologize, they were just there to manipulate me into believing I was the aggressor, not the victim, and that I owed their son an apology. Absolutely not. So, I decided to slam the door. When they started yelling from outside, I told them that if they didn't leave, I'd come out with something heavy. That's when my ex finally started begging his parents to go, and after a few minutes, they did. It's wild, my problem started with my ex, but now it's turned into a problem with my ex-in-laws. And that honestly amazes me, because I even defended them here before. Update 5. The last time I saw my ex, when his parents dragged him to my house to get an apology from me, I could tell he was embarrassed and frustrated with them for making things worse. I think he was already humiliated by what happened at my wedding, and this just made everything bigger. So, honestly, I don't think it's so bad that he's now suing his own parents for humiliation, for posting that picture of him crying. It's the smartest thing he's done, even if he hasn't exactly been making many smart decisions lately. I don't know how far a lawsuit like that will go, I mean, it's just a photo, but I'm hoping it at least makes his parents stop bothering me. I was getting tired of them demanding I apologize to their son. So, if my ex is finally doing something useful, even indirectly, I'm fine with that. And yes, I could have sued for defamation too, since they accused me of causing his breakdown, but what would be the point? Over a silly photo that didn't really harm me beyond a few minutes of anger? It wasn't worth it. The most I could have achieved would be getting the photo deleted and maybe a half-hearted apology, along with a huge lawyer bill, because these people don't work for free. Now, my ex is handling it himself, and I don't even have to lift a finger. In fact, the photo's already been taken down. Update 6. Just as I expected, my ex-in-laws didn't have to pay any compensation to my ex-husband. I know because he's been telling other people, and those people have told me. Apparently, all he managed to achieve was getting the photo removed, though he accomplished that just by filing the lawsuit. That's it. He hasn't even said how much he spent on the lawyer. Which, honestly, proves my point. This is exactly why I don't like getting lawyers involved in trivial matters. They're always the ones who win in cases like this, and they win big. The other thing he achieved? He's now not speaking to his parents. But as long as they're not bothering me, which they haven't been, I'm perfectly happy with that.